Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I have to give all praises for the glory to Yahweh Bashem Shai, Bashem Kakradash, Yahweh ben Shalom, we only calls God, Bashem in the name of, and Yahweh Shai ben Jordan, Savior, only calls Jesus, and the Kakradash, mean the Holy Spirit. That will allow us to pause and others a great millstone that rule well and that will lead them honest. And peace and blessing to all elect out there, pushing the work of the Lord in true faith sincerity, and promote your bodies under the sacrifice. Shalom, Paul as well. This is your brother Mashah, and today's edification exhortation in this lesson. Well, we're basically going over the importance of having a good reputation, man. You know, it's very important to have a good reputation, you know. Basically, reputation is, ultimately the way people, perceive you, the way you're looked at in society. And this true. Don't get it twisted. Of course, as a man of the Lord, you're going to have a bad reputation in the world, you know what I'm saying, because you're ultimately going against the status quo. You're going against, the wickedness in this world, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. But that's ultimately when we're in prophet mode. But we have to understand that, majority of the time we're not in prophet mode, man. 90% of the time, we're in Clark Kent mode, you know what I'm saying? When we're mostly, going through the motions in the world, you know what I'm saying? You could be at your job, you know what I'm saying? Wherever it may be at, just going to the grocery store, you're not in prophet mode. You're in Clark Kent mode. You put the glasses on, you know what I'm saying? You're in Peter Parker mode, you know what I'm saying? Or you might be in Bruce Wayne mode, you know what I'm saying? So we have to understand that, when we're dealing with people in the world, you know what I'm saying, we're, in that Clark Kent mode, so to speak, when we don't have the suit on, you know what I'm saying, when we don't have the mask on, the costume on, which is, us being the man of the Lord, when we're not in Batman mode, when we're not in Superman mode, when we're not in Spider-Man mode, you know what I'm saying, we have to understand that, the scriptures tell us, man, to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, man. You know what I'm saying? So we can't be out here, you know what I'm saying, being known, for, doing crazy things, man. So it's very important that you have a good reputation, man, because it ultimately, keeps, that secret identity, alive, man. It keeps it from being revealed. You know what I'm saying? It allows you to not blow your cover, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, people in the world, they got demons on them. They gonna, look at you a certain way because you got a different spirit about you. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. People gonna speak evil of you and stuff like that, of course. But you have to understand that, especially being a Jake in this world, you know what I'm saying, you can't function in society. You can't do certain things. You can't maneuver if you have a bad reputation, if you have a bad record. This is why important, you brothers out here, you know what I'm saying, make sure, you're examining yourself, man. Making sure you're always on your P's and Q's, being vigilant out here, because, you can easily get in trouble nowadays, man, being a Jake. You know what I'm saying? You could lose your life. You know what I'm saying? You can, get arrested. You could get a bad record. You want to keep yourself clean, man. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how we keep our secret identity alive, man. You know what I'm saying? It's by being clean with our other persona, man. So keep your name clean, man. You shouldn't be known as a dude, you know what I'm saying, who is a predator, out here making women uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? You known as a dude that's always starting trouble, getting into fights. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand that, all those type of, negative antics, or you got a thing now where niggas get put on the T app, you know what I'm saying? Some rumor, you get put on a rumor app. You should be so smooth to the point that you should be so introverted to the point that people can't even make rumors about you. If they make rumors about you, then they just doing it because they got nothing else to do. But it should be so to the point that you should be low key, man, with everything that you do. You know what I'm saying? And also, put yourself in position where you're going to be looked at, as, a person, that can be trusted, man. If you're at your job, you should be damn near employee of the month, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying be a coon or anything, but, Obviously, put the glasses on, like Clark Kent, and you know, the scriptures tell us, man, if it be possible, be at peace with all men. You know what I'm saying? With the heathens around Esau, when I get around Esau at the plantation, I'm like their best friend, you know what I'm saying? You know? So you got to know how to not blow your cover, man. And that starts with having a good reputation. Always having, have good behavior, man. Obviously, you can add some salt, you know what I'm saying? But don't be out here, acting reckless, doing stupid things, man, that will ruin your reputation, man. Being drunk, always being late, stuff like that. Those are all things that can ruin your reputation and ruin the image, man. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand everything is perception. So sometimes you got to fake it until you make it, you know? And that's what you got to do, man, especially as man of the Lord, especially being a superhero, man. You got to know how to fake it until you make it, man, because we don't want to blow our cover, man. So now let's go into the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, starting at the first verse. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, starting at the first verse, and it reads, "A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold," man. And that's right. A good name is better, than great riches. Someone having a lot of money and love and favor rather than silver and gold. And you may ask, why is a good name better than gold and silver and money, all these things? Because you have to understand, with a good name, that's when you can make money. That's when you can reap all these benefits, man. And that's ultimately respect, man. Having a good name comes with respect, And when you actually go into the word name in the scripture, let's go into it. Let's go into in the Hebrew. You go into the Hebrew, the word name. Salak. Bear with me. Yeah, name. So when you actually, definitions in the context, so the outline of biblical usage. Name, reputation, fame, and glory. So, ultimately, man, you see it says, through the idea of definite and conspicuous position. So, you see, in affiliation as a mark or a memorial of individuality, by implication, honor, authority, and character. You see? So, renown. So, these all go to basically your reputation, man. So, the word name, in the scripture actually goes into basically, the word reputation, fame, and glory. So, having a good reputation is better than money because it allows respect. With a good reputation, you're able to maneuver. You know what I'm saying? When people got street rep, the carnal niggas in the world, you know what I'm saying? You got street rep. That means people not going to do nothing to you. You can go in the hood. You know what I'm saying? People not gonna lay a finger on you or try to hit a lick on you because you got a good reputation. You know what I'm saying? You got street rep. You got street cred. You feel me? So it's the same way you got to move, you know what I'm saying, in the world. You feel me? You got to have a good reputation when you in the world, man. You know what I'm saying? People should when people say your name, man, it should be to the point that, because eventually we're going to be America's Most Wanted, right? We're going to be America's Most Wanted, and our secret identities are going to be revealed. You see it in all the superhero movies. Eventually, the superhero's identity gets revealed, But then people see the true secret identity, they're like, no way. Such and such was this good guy. Peter Parker, I didn't know Peter Parker. No way Peter Parker can be Spider-Man. No way Bruce Wayne can be Spider-Man. No way Clark Kent could be Superman. You know what I'm saying? Because you have such a reputation that completely contrasts the true persona, which is the superhero part of you. You know what I'm saying? It should be so to the point that when people, they should be like, no way. You know what I'm saying? No way this dude was a prophet of the Lord. He was a terrorist. Because they're going to label us as terrorists. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be people who's going to be confused when the time's to come, man. It'll be like, there's no way. So it should be to the point that people perceive you as a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? You know, in the plantation, you might be around moles. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Wicked niggas. You know, stuff like that. And I treat them, you know, like they my best friend, man, at the plantation, man. And they perceive me as a good guy. Of course, there's going to be niggas out here hating and niggas who are skeptical because they can sense something's different about you. But it should be to the point that you out here, you know what I'm saying, moving and people look at you as having a good reputation, man. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what allows you to maneuver in society, man. You know, if you have a bad record, you can't do much, man. You know what I'm saying? I had a situation where today I was talking to this chick or whatever, you know, and, you know, we was having a normal conversation, you know, a little flirty and stuff. You know, I'm having my little James Bond thing, right? And then all of a sudden the demon hops on her, you know what I'm saying? You know, basically shit testing or whatever. And then some other dude comes, right? And joins our conversation or whatever. And, you know, she starts, you know, basically trying to blemish my image in a way. You know, she was describing basically me and her's first interaction. And the interaction went as she tried to frame it, you know, in a way that made me seem, you know, as basically a conceited individual or, you know, and also, you know, a predator. You know, I'm not going to go into details, you know, what, you know, her first interaction and all that, but it was her basically first impression, you know, that she was describing, you know, to the person that joins the conversation about me was very misconstrued and ultimately tarnished my image in a way, man. You know, especially being a Jake, you know, even if someone's joking around, you have to understand there's truth in jokes, you know. So if I'm getting, you know, framed as a predator, especially we're in public, you know, there's people of authority around, you know what I'm saying, that can make me look bad. You know, given that I'm already a Jake, I'm already a minority, you know, at the plantation I'm at, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that, you know. That makes me look bad, you know what I'm saying? You know, but I have such a clean record that even if an accusation like that comes out, people won't believe it, you know, because, you know, I do the right thing. I do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? You got niggas in the world, they hate the cops. You know what I'm saying? I see a cop. I'm best friends with the cop. You want to know why? Because the scriptures tell us, man, you have to agree with thine adversary, man. You know, I agree with my adversary. The scriptures show you how to maneuver, man. You know, don't try to be a MLK ass nigga, man. You know, because all the Malcolm X niggas, all those niggas died, man. You know? So just agree with that adversary, man. And remember that it comes with having a good reputation. By having a good reputation, you know, in the world, I'm able to get away with a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? And who knows? In the time of Jacob's trouble, given that you had a good reputation, you know, before, you know, there might be a chance where people, you know, some heathens might help you, you know, some, you know, people might help you because you had such a good reputation. You know what I'm saying? You was always a good guy, you know, you always did the right thing. And people remember those little things that you do, man. So you never know who's watching. You never know who can help you in the future. So that's why it's always good to be a good person, man. You know, be positive around people, you know, because some people do appreciate it. We live in a world where people are wicked and, you know, don't appreciate righteousness. But there's people out here who really respect the way we move. Even though we're not in prophet mode, you know what I'm saying, in our day-to-day lives, people can still sense righteousness on us and still appreciate it, man. You know, I had a lot of people come around me, man, and tell me, man, like, damn, like, I really respect your positivity. You know, I respect your leadership. You know, I respect your individuality. Like, there's people out here who are secret admirers, man. You know, so, you know, ultimately goes back to having that good reputation, man. You know, yeah, niggas may hate, but, you know, niggas might put lies on your name, man. But it should be to the point that, you know, you have such a good reputation, even if people do put a rumor on you, man, people won't believe it, man, right away. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, going back to the story with me and the female, you know, she basically tarnished my image. And then, you know what I did, right? The spirit went on me to basically, you know, bring facts, man. And you got to defend yourself, man. You know, you got to protect your reputation at all costs. Obviously, I didn't get emotional and I didn't escalate and start yelling at the bitch and stuff like that. No, I said calmly, you know, I started bringing up facts. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's a little thing like that, you know, I ended up bringing concrete evidence, you know what I'm saying, of our first interaction and how it went down. And I basically highlighted and exposed that she was actually the person that was interested in me first, you know, and she's the one that initiated everything. You know what I'm saying? But she tried to make it seem like, oh, I tried to, you know, not only be conceited, you know, and be an egotistical man, but also, you know, be a predator to the point that basically that I forced my, you know, the conversation on her. I forced myself on her, which is, you know, not what happened, man. You know, so even you brothers out here dealing with women, always make sure, you know, you have evidence of everything, man. Because in this world, a woman or really anybody can say you did something to them, man. You know, and you didn't. So you got to make sure you have all type of evidence, man, to defend yourself, man. Because we live in a world where people are quick to believe a lie, man. You know, are quick to believe a lie. So even if a chick is joking around saying, "Oh, I'm trying to." Making her feel uncomfortable, I'm going to show evidence to the point that I never had the intent of wanting to do certain things, right? So that situation today really, you know, inspired me to do this lesson because reputation is everything, man. You could be the greatest person ever. You could dominate your field. As soon as one bad thing comes across, you know what I'm saying, about you, man, news comes across, man, that could jeopardize your whole career, man. You see it happens to the athlete niggas, man. You know, niggas will be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Next thing you know, niggas got a grape allegation, and then boom, niggas is done. You seen what happened to Kobe. You seen what happened to these niggas, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you should never be put in a position where that's how smooth you gotta be, man, and how vigilant you gotta be out here, man. Especially dealing with these women, man, because these women are agents, man. 99% of the time, bro, when you're dealing with a woman out here, she's an agent, man. You know, they're designed to put you down, man. So you gotta be on your P's and Q's. You know, even these people out here, not just women, you know, people that you around with every day, yo. Even your own family could be an agent, man. You know, people will be quick to tarnish your image, man. You know, quick to do all these things. So this is why it's important to have evidence, man. You know, I ended up, when I was dealing with the chick today and she was trying to tarnish my image, you know, in front of the other person, you know, I ultimately started bringing up, I was like, you know what? I got pictures, I got videos, I got everything, you know, that would defend me, man. You know, and then the demon on her, started, you know, getting mad, you know. She started getting mad because I ultimately exposed, you know what I'm saying, her lie, man. You know, and it hurt her ego, man, because not only did I stay calm, I ended up bringing evidence, you know, that will, you know, completely, you know, dismiss, you know, her complete blasphemy, man. You know, her lies that she put on my name. You know, even if someone's joking, don't take jokes lightly, man, because there's truth in jokes, man. There's truth in jokes. So don't let niggas out here joke around, you know, about your reputation, putting you in a bad light, man. That's just not cool, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to hold people accountable, man. You know? You got to hold people accountable because you have to understand, at the end of the day, reputation is everything. You have to guard it like it's a fucking shit, bro. Like you got to guard it like it's the freaking, last piece of, I don't know, bro, whatever it is, man. Like, you got to guard it with your life, man. Your reputation is everything, man. You know what I'm saying? Reputation is everything. If you known as a liar, you know what I'm saying, you known as a cheater, all these things, man, can, make you lose a lot of things, man. Make you lose opportunities. You know what I'm saying? You know? Oh, you known as a hothead, you known as a dude that's always trying to look for fights and stuff. You could lose a job opportunity. You could lose you could lose a chance at a woman. If you're known as a cheater and there's a, genuine woman out there, she hears rumors about you cheating. Now she not gonna give you a chance because she's automatically gonna have that defense mechanism not to want to be with you. So at the end of the day, reputation is everything, man. You know what I'm saying? Reputation is everything. I was talking to this nigga, man, in the world that I know. And then he's trying to blow up with this content shit, right? And then he was like, reputation, or having a reputation, having a negative reputation is better than not having a reputation at all. And I was like, bro, what? People literally know you for negative things, bro. You know what I'm saying? You want to be known for being negative, bro? Like, that's not cool, bro. You can lose a lot of opportunities, man. Some people blow up. Some people get famous with negativity, but the sad reality is not everybody can do that, man. You know what I'm saying? So in order to really move in society, man, you gotta be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, man. You can't be out here just moving any type of way, man. You gotta protect yourself, protect your reputation, because you have to understand that your name is your brand, man. Your name is everything, Your name is everything. The way you portray yourself as, the way people portray you as, man, is very important, man. So you got to guard it. You got to hold people accountable. Just like how earlier, I held that girl accountable trying to make me seem like a, predator almost, man. And that's not cool, man. That's not cool. Having predator allegations, bro, are not cool, man. You've seen a lot of people fall because of that, man. You've seen a lot of people lose careers over shit like that, man. Lies being put on their names, man. So you got to be careful out here, man. That you don't get caught up in these things, You got to really be careful out here, man. Be on your P's and Q's, man. Test every spirit and hold people accountable, man. You know what I'm saying? And then, it's crazy that when I had the interaction with the female, I ended up bringing facts, concrete evidence like a damn lawyer. And then, she ended up, getting mad and leaving the conversation, man. Like furious mad, like she was on fire, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like the fucking angry emotion from fucking Inside Out. That nigga is always mad and shit. She looking like that, man, full of anger. And she ended up leaving, but the scriptures say, man, the righteous are as bold as a lion and the wicked fleeth when no man pursueth. So the demon on her, you know what I'm saying, got mad because I was exposing the truth. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's a little petty thing, you know what I'm saying, you still gotta let people know the truth about you, man. You know what I'm saying? You can't be having people portray you in a negative light. You know what I'm saying? You gotta let niggas know, man. You know what I'm saying? Because, even if niggas are joking around, bro, we live in a world where niggas will take a joke as truth, man. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta guard your reputation at all costs, man. Especially in your day-to-day life. But as a man of the Lord, people are gonna say all they can say. People can say, oh, Batman, you know what I'm saying, is a is a vigilante. Oh, they say Spider-Man is a scumbag. Uh, he doesn't care about the people. He's all that. Yeah, you can say that about Spider-Man, you know, and Batman. That's not gonna affect Spider-Man and Batman. You know, it's not gonna affect us when we're in prophet mode. But you have to understand, getting that negative, you know, framing, man, you know, that negative portrayal, you know, when you're in that Peter Parker mode, when you're in that Clark Kent mode, when you're in that Bruce Wayne mode, is very bad, man. You know what I'm saying? Because it can ultimately blow your cover, man. You know, as Batman, Spider-Man, however you want to call it, man. Basically that prophet superhero mode, man. So it's very important, man. You know, when you're in your day-to-day life, man, you know what I'm saying? You know, you moving out here with your P's and Q's, man, and, you know, you're keeping your reputation, you know, calm, man. You know what I'm saying? You're not a threat to society, just doing your own thing, man. You know what I'm saying? It should be to the point that people just got to make a crazy lie. You know how you know, in the movies and shit, there'll be, you know, certain people, you know what I'm saying, that are skeptical. Like, oh, Clark Kent is Superman, or I have a feeling, or Bruce Wayne is Batman. And then they end up making a fool out themselves, you know, because Bruce Wayne is so smooth to the point that you can't find out he's Batman. You know what I'm saying? He has such a reputation to the point that he has such a reputation that completely contrasts to him being Batman. That's basically what I'm trying to say, is that your day-to-day life, that persona, you know what I'm saying, that Clark Kent mode should completely contrast who you are as a prophet. You know, as a prophet, you might be a very, you know what I'm saying, bold brother. You know what I'm saying? You know, you like cutting people with scriptures and stuff like that. But in that Clark Kent mode, you need to be more laid back. You know what I'm saying? You need to be a little more passive, you know what I'm saying? Or you might have a different spirit where, you know, Batman, you might have a Batman persona, you know, when you're a prophet. You might be, you know, very stoic, you know what I'm saying? Very stoic, you know, hardcore stuff like that. But when you're in your day-to-day life, but when you're Bruce Wayne, you're more charismatic, you're more outgoing, you're like that billionaire playboy. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what fits my spirit, you know. Everybody's spirit, you might have a Peter Parker spirit, you know, when you're on your day-to-day life, you might have a Clark Kent, whoever it may be, you know. But I'm more of like a, you know, Bruce Wayne type, you know what I'm saying? The reckless billionaire playboy. It should be to the point that people can never assume that you're a man of the Lord. People can sense it, but they be like, there's something different about this guy, but they can't just be like, oh, he's a man of the Lord. Nah. When I walk in my day-to-day life, bro, people just think, oh, I'm just a nigga, man. I'm just a nigga. That's what people think. Oh, he's just a nigga. You feel me? And that's how they should be like. You know, it should be like, you shouldn't be wearing a shirt that says, oh, I'm a prophet. No, you know, man, you should be just, you should try to blend in, man, as much as you can, man. You know, as much as you can, man, you know, when you're in that, when you're not in prophet mode, man. So, you know, with that, man, Lord and Father, to give all praise, honor, and glory, how about you, man, man. You know, ultimately, man, you know, you have to understand that reputation is very important, man. You know, the way you're perceived in the world is very important, man. You know what I'm saying? So you got to carry yourself with class. If you a nigga out here, you know what I'm saying, dressing up like a thug, people are going to look at you as a thug, you know. Looks do matter. The scriptures say, man, a man should be known by his look. So carry yourself with class, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't walk out here with my pants, you know what I'm saying, below my ass, you know what I'm saying, with a damn bonnet on in public. You know how niggas are. You know what I'm saying, with a do-rag in public. I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to be perceived as a nigga, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not a nigga, man. You know what I'm saying? You should be carrying yourself with class. You know what I'm saying? You know? Because, bro, perception is everything, man. People should look at you as a well-put brother, you know, well-put. You know what I'm saying? You know, obviously every brother has a different persona, but at the end of the day, you know, you have to understand that, you know, most of the time a book is judged by its cover, man. You know, so carry yourself with class, man. You know, always put yourself in the right positions, man. Always put yourself in a position where people perceive you as a person who's good at what they do. You know what I'm saying? Whatever your craft may be, or you know what I'm saying? You know, perception is everything, man. You know, man. You know, don't be a nigga out here, man. You know, move with class. You know, move with wisdom, man. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, let people, you know, underestimate us and stuff like that. Fine. But, you know, portray yourself as, you know, frame yourself in a good way, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, don't be a threat to people out here, man, for no reason, man. You know? Because niggas gonna hate, niggas gonna do all that, but at the end of the day, niggas will have to lie on your name. You know what I'm saying? To hear some crazy shit about you, man. You know, so, you know, guard your reputation at all costs. You know, move with wisdom out here, man. Be wise as a serpent, man, as harmless as a dove, man. You know, because remember, it protects, you know, our secret identity, man, which is that prophet mode, man. You know, so with that, Lord, if I had to give all praise and honor and glory to Bashim Ashad, Bashim Kakadash, guard your reputation, guard your name, man. You know, Shalom, Abba, death to man.